Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today in DC Dark Legion, I have the February tier list for you. Yes, I know you didn't miss it. I did not put a January one out, but I'll explain why I didn't do that. But here is the most updated tier list that you're going to get for the game. Very curious on your thoughts. There's a lot to discuss here, so let's get into it. All right, and welcome back. Before we jump into the tier list, let's talk about why I didn't put a January tier list out. I put the December one out. I did it probably around mid-month. Artemis came out, wanted to do a little bit more testing before I put her in a specific spot. By the time January came around and I was getting ready to start thinking about a tier list there, Lobo was coming out, so I wanted to wait for Lobo. But by the time Lobo came out, we started seeing some changes to the game. We saw a bunch of changes in the tags. I put a video out on that. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link up to it right over here. Or up here, wherever, wherever it is. But there was a lot of tag synergy changes that were made. And then after that, they made a bunch of changes to Arkham's Most Wanted, and then additional changes to Arkham's Most Wanted. So I wanted to wait for all of that to play out a little bit and test those changes before I made an updated tier list. And I'll tell you, between December and now, not a lot of changes. I'll be completely honest with you. It didn't do a whole lot. We'll talk about it here in just a second. But let's go ahead and take a look at the tier list here. Only a few changes, really. Artemis, I put her at A+, along with Lobo. I think they're both great characters. Artemis fulfills that damage dealer role that DM Wonder Woman fulfills for Amazons. If you're going for the Amazon team, just know it's not a free-to-play player team. You need DM Wonder Woman in there, but if you don't have her, then you got this mediocre Amazon team. And you're going to want to have Artemis in there for that damage dealer. She does some decent damage in as a plug and play role as well, but obviously she's going to do much better in that Amazon team. We got Lobo. I think Lobo's a good character. I just think he's kind of disjointed a little bit. He does some decent damage. You max him out. You max his force out. He's going to do some good damage, but you've got so many other characters that do great damage. If you are later in the game, you're probably not going to want to invest a whole lot in Lobo because you're already focused on that one or two teams that you're really wanting to build. Him having the Suicide Squad tag, makes him I wish he would have had a different tag. I think really, I don't know how many different teams he's been on. I know he's been on a few, but Justice League is one of them as well. I don't know. I think Justice League probably would have been better than putting him on Suicide Squad. But I think the tag, like I said, makes him kind of But as a plug-and-play character, he's pretty decent. I think he does pretty well in combat cycle, specifically against Devastator, the single-target damage type bosses. So I think he would do pretty good there. But if you are in the early part of the game and you're just starting and Lobo's in your bleed, then I think he's a good character to have really early on. So both of them, great for A+, I feel. I think they're also great for their individual teams. However, Lobo, again, talking about Lobo and Suicide Squad, nothing makes Suicide Squad really good right now. So he's more of that plug-and-play character, which makes him a bit of a loner. And like I said before, that kind of fits with his role. So there's my thoughts on Lobo and on Artemis. Stargirl, I did move down to C. I mean, I just couldn't really continue to keep her up in the B spot. I moved her down to C. You're really only going to use her in one spot. That's combat cycle, and that's against the drowned. And even then, you don't even have to use her there, depending on how advanced your account is. And then I did move Harley down. Harley was great in the very beginning when the game first came out. Now, very So, doesn't really contribute too much. Good early game character. And she starts to fall, well, I was going to say and mid, but she starts to fall off more mid to end game, so you're not really going to invest too much in her. Let's talk about some of the changes that happened with the Arkham team. Really, if we take a look at the individual characters, Scarecrow got a bit of a nerf, and then it was corrected a little bit. I think with him, they're making him make the team more of a physical damage resistant team. So to more go up against maybe Superman family or maybe Batman family, things like that. But the initial change kind of made him worse. And then they added an update that came out with Scarecrow, not Scarecrow, but with Poison Ivy and with Penguin. that bumped up his HP, so made him a little more, kind of made him a little bit better. However, they also made the change where they moved the stun that he had to his weapon, so they now made it to where it's more beneficial if you had his weapon. You probably had his weapon anyway, so that was probably kind of a moot change to you, but if you didn't have his weapon, you'll now want the weapon so you can have that stun and the benefits that the weapon provides. So I think with that change, it kept him the same. It didn't bump him up. It didn't bump him down. I still think he's an A+ character, and I still think that he's essential for that Arkham's Most Wanted team. Next was Poison Ivy. We got Poison Ivy down here in A. Essentially what they did with Poison Ivy is they turned her from kind of a combo, minor damage, mediocre healer to now pure healing. So when you take a look at Poison Ivy, she's probably more geared towards like the early accounts, early to mid game until Riddler comes around. Then obviously you're going to go ahead and grab Riddler. We've been talking about him forever. He's a great addition to the Arkham's Most Wanted team. When he comes out in your bleed and you're building that team, make sure to grab him, even if you're not building that team, because he's good as a plug and play healer as well, beefing up spiritual as well as physical damage dealer. So I think he's great. I don't think what they did to Ivy changed her on the tier list at all. Obviously didn't bump her up, but it didn't bump her down either. I think she still stays where she is. Penguin. Now, I did wrestle around with this a little bit if I want to bump him up to B or not. Maybe for the next tier list, we might see more of an impact there, but they did improve Penguin a little bit. They gave him more a damage over time mechanic similar to Joker. So he's kind of like a Joker Jr.? Can we call him a Joker Jr.? So with him, they did make him a little more viable, a little bit better. But obviously, if you have Joker, you're going to go for Joker. The thing between the two is Joker, you got to wait for him to come around in the bleed. Penguin, you don't. So if you don't have Joker, you can throw Penguin in there and play around with him a little bit as you're building your Arkham's Most Wanted team. But later on, you're definitely going to want to make sure to get the Joker. Joker is fantastic for the team. He is the damage dealer for that team, and he is also great for combat cycle. So he's going to work very well for you, which is why he continues to stay in the S spot. So those are my thoughts. That's my tier list for February, how the changes impacted the tier list, which really didn't impact the tier list much at all, especially for the Arkham team. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're planning for as far as additional teams and stuff. Just taking a look at Lobo coming in, and now we've got a new character coming in. They already put the silhouette out there. I don't know if they revealed it or not yet, but people are thinking that it's Wally West. I don't know where he's going to go. Unless they're making a speedster team or they're going to put him on Justice League. Maybe it's Teen Titans. So if that's the character, kind of curious where they're going to put him. I don't know the logic behind the character release and the team compositions. That's the problem that I'm having right now. So, all right, everybody, those are my thoughts on the tier list. Very curious. What do you think of where I have everybody for February? Leave me your thoughts, ask your questions, everything in the comment section below so everybody benefits. And as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.